Good evening, my friends. Joe Manchin has really stepped up for Americans and is making bold statements for change and is taking action to help solve the 48% increase in gas prices that the Biden administration should be doing. The world's #1 human rights violator, the CCP, is on the verge of starving 193 million Chinese citizens. The Biden administration is once again attempting to infringe on the Second Amendment of the Constitution of America. Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. Welcome to Veracity. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. Now, before we begin, I have to thank today's sponsor. Our sponsor for today's episode is all the amazing and kind-hearted people who have taken their hard-earned money and contributed to the show. I don't take it for granted, so I want to say thank you very much. And if you want to become a member and help contribute to the show, then click on the link in the description and become a member and help me on my mission to deliver truthful news. If you want inflation to go down, Americans will have to change leadership. These strong statements are made by Senator Joe Manchin against the weak decision-making power of President Biden's administration. The statement was made to respond to the astonishing report published recently by the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics. According to the report, overall inflation has jumped to 8.5%, the highest ever jump in 1 year since 1981. Inflation on food is rising by 8.8% on average. The energy prices have jumped to 32%, which is 4 times higher than its base rate. And the price of gasoline is leaving all its competitors behind by touching 48% higher price than it existed a year ago. After the report came out, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis took to Twitter and said, Biden could unleash energy production to provide relief. Instead, he's content watching people suffer. However, Senator Elizabeth Warren and Representative Pramila Jayapal are pointing their finger at the giant corporations who intentionally increase prices by taking advantage of the crisis to increase their profits. Let me be clear, inflation is a tax, and today's historic inflation data tells another chilling story about how these taxes on Americans are completely out of control, Manchin said. Hard-earned wages and financial savings are disappearing faster every month as prices continue to climb, while the pain and frustration of spending more on everyday items lingers over all of us, especially among those who can't afford it the least. To tackle the crisis, Senator Manchin suggested the administration, Congress, Democrats, and Republicans must take a united and immediate decision towards this issue. The United States of America is equipped to be energy independent from Russia and other terror-sponsoring countries, while also fighting global climate change and breaking our dependence on the critical mineral supply chain from China. In 2021, the United States was importing around 700,000 barrels of crude oil and refined petroleum products from Russia. And as we all know, after the Russian war, the White House banned importing Russian oil, liquefied natural gas, and coal as of March 8th. As smart of a decision the Biden administration thought canceling the Keystone XL pipeline was on the first day of taking the office, they surely must regret that irresponsible decision. To be more specific, the Keystone XL pipeline project could have provided a massive 830,000 barrels a day of crude oil from Alberta, Canada to U.S. refineries, which is much more than the barrels the White House was importing from Russia. Thankfully, Senator Joe Manchin is taking sufficient steps to reverse the cancellation of the Keystone XL pipeline project, which President Biden should have taken instead of requesting non-American friendly countries like Venezuela and Iran to fulfill energy requirements. After witnessing an astonishing 8.5% inflation report from the U.S. Consumer Price Index, Senator Manchin visited Alberta's oil sands, which are considered the third largest proven oil reserves globally. When he noticed the energy capabilities of the Alberta oil sands, he said, I continue to call on President Biden to increase energy production here at home responsibly and to reverse course to allow the Keystone XL pipeline to be built. The head of the Alberta province, Jason Kenney, also tweeted, Alberta oil is better than dictator oil. Not to forget, Senator Manchin also wrote a letter to President Biden requesting him to increase the domestic oil and gas production in the Gulf of Mexico to provide relief to Americans from the rising fuel prices. All these factors bring us to the conclusion that by tapping into the resources lying in our friendly neighborhood, we could achieve a secured future that satisfies the energy needs of Americans. After visiting non-American friendly countries like Venezuela and Iran earlier last month, the Biden administration has found a new way to dig a further hole in destabilizing its government. As a result of the naive action, Republican Representative Gary Palmer introduced a bill condemning the Biden administration for the rise in gas prices and shaking hands with Putin-like dictator countries that love violating human rights. He said, "It undermines our economy, emboldens our enemies, and weakens our position on the world stage. American energy independence will lead to a more prosperous America and a safer world." According to the president and CEO of Domestic Energy Producer Alliance, Jerry Simmons, the energy crisis in the country are arising mainly because of two reasons. One, policies backed by Democrats against the use of fossil fuels, and two, constant promises made by President Joe Biden in making America free from fossil fuels entirely. Simmons also pointed towards the cancellation of the billion-dollar Keystone XL pipeline project by the Biden administration that was supposed to make America independent not only in energy needs, but also as one of the world's leading energy suppliers. However, as the sound of Biden's policies against fossil fuel consumption managed to whisper through the ears of the major oil supplier countries like Saudi Arabia, it further discouraged them from increasing production, thus increasing the price of oil and gas by maintaining the supply lower in the market in comparison to the higher demand. Shaking hands with the dictator countries despite becoming energy efficient in your own backyard could result in unacceptable circumstances in the future. Not to forget the strong environmental regulations imposed by the government on new oil and gas companies is also demotivating them to contribute towards more production. As the world is trying to recover from the financial effects of COVID-19, the experts from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, have now issued a stark warning about the astonishing rise in the level of borrowing in the world. The IMF's director, Vitor Gasper, stated that in 2020, the borrowing level jumped from 28% to 256% of GDP, which is the highest in the last 60 years. Surprisingly, the governments conducted half of the borrowing, whereas households and non-financial corporations conducted the rest. Institutes of International Finance also stated that the level of debt from these parties also jumped from $4.8 trillion to $296 trillion only during the second quarter of the year 2021. However, the debt to GDP ratio has declined for the first time since the pandemic, which hints towards better economic growth in the coming years. Around 60% of the low-income nations are at risk of severe distress. The IMF suggested a strong debt restructuring and resolution mechanism could serve the interest of debtors and creditors. Lastly, the director also warned that such a mechanism is not possible unless every country has a cooperative approach towards it. The Constitution of a country is considered the highest authority in protecting the fundamental rights of every individual. As a significant amount of thought was given by James Edison, the father of the American Constitution, making even the slightest change in this holy document could hamper the rights of endless individuals in a country. However, after announcing his latest executive action to serialize ghost guns and run a background check on citizens, the Biden administration has taken pride in violating these fundamental rights mentioned in this 200-year-old Constitution. His recent goal of making self-assembled guns to be registered under the National Firearm Act results in a direct violation of the Second Amendment, which says, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." The Biden administration took the move after facing surmounting pressure from the public over the recent Colorado and Georgia shooting. Joe Biden also said that they would ask the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives to publish an annual report of firearms trafficking in the entire United States so that the states could use red flags against the individuals who own such ghost guns. Now, if we look at the statistics, you'll be surprised to know that from 2016 to 2020, 24,000 ghost guns without serial numbers were recovered by the law enforcement authorities at the crime scene. 131 ghost guns were recovered by the NYPD in January alone, and in 2019, a teenager used a homemade handgun to shoot 2 of his classmates and severely injure 3 others at a school in Los Angeles. To run this process smoothly, President Biden has decided to nominate Obama-era U.S. Attorney Steve Bettelbach as the director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. However, this move attracted heavy objection from the Gun Owners of America organization. They said Dettelbach's nomination would be one of extreme concern for gun owners. If he is confirmed as the ATF director, he could do something about gun violence that would infringe upon our rights to keep and bear arms. The National Rifle Association, NRA, also responded by stating, the proposal Biden announced today could require law-abiding citizens to surrender lawful property and enable states to expand gun confiscation orders. A report about the ATF was pointed out by Lee Williams of the Second Amendment Foundation. The report conducted by the Investigative Journalism Project analyzed the truth behind the statements by ATF to the public. The report concluded that ATF fails to prove statistics on which it heavily relies. For example, in 2020, Special Agents in Charge Carlos Canino of the ATF's Los Angeles said that 41% of the cases came from ghost guns. However, they failed to provide any valid document that proves such data during the investigation. Lee Williams responded by saying, "This is outrageous. Civil rights are about to be violated based on the invalid data by the ATF official who the agency now appears to have disavowed." Although there is an increasing concern about the rising black market of homemade handguns, Senator John Kenney pressed the additional gun laws will not make our city safer. There is a need to punish criminals, not criminalize law-abiding gun owners. As the world's #1 human rights violator, the Chinese Communist Party has now proved that living in China is the same as living in hell. From being on the verge of starving 193 million people to death to killing innocent dogs roaming on the street, the Chinese health officials are acting like complete, cold-hearted robots as they attempt to stop massive spikes in the Omicron variant. With their habitual nature of hiding everything from the outside world, the residents of the entire Kangting community in Shanghai, which is under severe lockdown, have managed to share this haunting video from the ground. Here, take a look.
COVID prevention worker was caught on camera bashing to death a pet corgi. Apparently this happened after the pet's owner had tested reportedly positive for COVID-19 and taken away to a quarantine center. It was a resident in the compound who filmed this video and filmed how this health worker used a shovel to strike the corgi 3 times before the pet dog died on the scene.
Also confiscated some huge but unknown number of house cats from people's homes, thrown them in bags, and left them on sidewalks to be killed.
These incidents are the result of the zero COVID policy imposed by the CCP, under which the health officials are directed to contain the virus no matter what actions they have to take. The lockdown was initiated on March 28th, promising to end within a few days. However, there seems to be no signs of the CCP ending this barbaric lockdown of 26 million people in Shanghai anytime soon. According to residents, the government officials have locked the entire community's entry and exit gates with strong locks. The situation became worse when the food suppliers failed to deliver any food because of fear of catching Omicron. Moreover, the promised government food suppliers failed to reach any quarantine patients. One resident named Lee said she only bought groceries for a week because the authorities promised 4 days of a lockdown period. Another statement by a Shanghai-based executive said, "It's the first time in my life I have had to worry about securing food. Now I am worried we will run out of milk for our kids." Not to forget, the authorities are not advising but forcing children to be quarantined away from their parents if they are found positive and their parents are negative. A mother of a 7-year-old boy explained that her son had nightmares after going through a 1-month-long quarantine period. She also shocked the reporters by stating that one of her friend's 6-month-old child came out of quarantine with severe scratches on his legs and open sores. Despite taking such harsh measures, around 26,000 new cases of Omicron were reported from Shanghai in one day, from which 96% of the patients showed no symptoms. Xi Jinping has compelled regulators to disapprove effective COVID vaccines created by the Western countries, so that China can show the world that they are better in technology than other major countries, even if it means watching their citizens die of starvation. According to Yan Zongheng, a member of the Council of Foreign Relations, when China developed its vaccine, they used that to show the technological progress of China. Moreover, if you switch to a foreign vaccine, it's tantamount to admitting that you are not as good as other countries in terms of technological capabilities. Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin approved over 100 bills into law last week, including the one compelling Virginia schools to tell parents if their children are offered books or any other material with sexually explicit material. Youngkin justified the proposal as part of a collective commitment to encourage parental participation in their children's education. One of Youngkin's congressional objectives was just a proposal presented by Republican Representative Siobhan Dunavant. It takes the Department of Education with developing model policies for parental notification and making them available to school boards by July 31st. Each school board must adopt the policies by January 1st, 2023, according to the measure, which uses a definition of sexual explicit content that already exists in state law. It also requires that students be given an alternative assignment at a parent's request. Youngkin said in a press release that the bill delivers on his day one promise to give parents a greater say in their children's education. Youngkin also agreed to sign a right to basic education bill into law on Friday to advance perfection in learning and student performance in mathematics, trying to expand the advanced studies diploma, program choice for high school kids, and working to improve the transparency and honesty of performance metrics for elementary and secondary school students. I'm pleased to sign the bills into law, along with many other bipartisan bills that will enhance education, improve public safety, provide tax relief, and make government work better for the people of Virginia, Youngkin said in his press release. In a 15-minute phone interview with the Dallas radio station The Answer, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who supported Florida's parental rights in education bill, stated that the radical left is pushing ideology into our system, which is the Marxist socialist agenda to disrupt the family. He expressed that the LGBTQ+ community must understand that other people have rights too. Every parent has the right to openly say that he or she does not want their first, second, or third graders to learn about being gay, lesbian, or that they can change their sex. Moreover, if someone chooses to be gay, that is their lifestyle. Just do not try to turn the society upside down. When asked what action he would take concerning the children's education, the governor immediately responded by promising that he would make their own version of the Florida law by keeping it a top priority in the coming session. If we talk about the actions taken by the governor, you will be happy to know that he has vowed to review transgender-specific books hiding in the libraries of public schools, and also launched an email campaign against Walt Disney Company for objecting to Florida's parental rights in education bill that prohibits using gender-specific words in kindergarten through to the 3rd grade. In an email, the governor encouraged people to stop contributing to Disney by cutting off their channel, canceling your trip to their place, or avoiding spending money on their accessories. Later he said, whatever their denomination is and their faith is, they believe there is a higher power who decides life and who designed us as human beings. This is a battle between those who believe they are God and have control over life and death and even their sex, and those who believe there is a creator, believe in their God, believe in Jesus Christ. And that's it for today, my friends. Don't forget to like and share, and most importantly, join our membership site and support the mission to deliver truthful information. I'd rather depend on the generosity of you, people I can trust, than ever have to depend on YouTube again. I'd like to thank you all for spending the time with me, and We'll see you next time.